This is the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla.
You know, we got to be optimistic about it. Basically, what Chief Justice Roberts did for us, for the American people, was put this issue, Obamacare and the individual mandate, back in the hands of the people via our representatives.
Obamacare has been upheld by the Supreme Court. The court's liberals were joined by Chief Justice John Roberts. The 5-4 ruling now makes it certain that major health care changes will move ahead, touching virtually every American's life. Today, we'll talk about the decision and much more with a rising star from Arizona. Congressman Ben Quayle is here. Sarah Palin weighs in on Obamacare, death panels 3 years later, and Alaska's strategic location. There has been intense political reaction to the ruling by the Supreme Court upholding the federal health care overhaul pushed by President Obama. Today, we're joined by Arizona Congressman Ben Quayle, who has not been shy about his stance on Obamacare or the president in general. Now, he's on the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio. Congressman Quayle, thank you for your time, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, this past week, we got a ruling from the Supreme Court on Obamacare. Your thoughts on the decision, sir, and where we go from here?
Well, I guess that this just rekindles the fire for everybody who's opposed to Obamacare, and I think we're just going to have to redouble our efforts, both in the House and then in November, so that we can keep the House, get the Senate, and get somebody new in the White House so that we can actually repeal it. The decision just didn't make any sense to me. All throughout the whole legislative process, nobody's called it a tax. In fact, they kept saying that it wasn't a tax. And if you read the dissent, they said that only 21 lines within the brief provided by the government actually dealt with it being a tax. So even the government thought it was a far-fetched idea to base constitutional criteria and constitutional grounds on this. And yet that's the straw that the majority grasped, and it didn't make any sense to me.
But you do believe there is at least a silver lining? Candidates down ticket can run against this?
Well, I think this becomes our rallying cry. This becomes the conservative rallying cry that we need to take back the White House and take back the Senate and keep the House so that we can actually have full repeal of this disastrous law. And you're going to see, I mean, you saw the market tank today, but you're going to see how businesses will continue to sit on their hands because they don't know if these mandates are going to go through and be fully implemented in 2014. So we need to be able to have the ability to repeal it in total and replace it with something that's market-based and makes common sense.
Arizona has become a hotbed, not just in Mercury of late, but really seemingly every issue or story. We had Governor Brewer with the finger wave at Obama. Recently, Obama's drastic moves on immigration. Palin has her ties there, too. Can you feel the spotlight on the desert more than ever?
Well, the administration has targeted Arizona and has attacked Arizona on a daily basis. And this latest thing that they had when the Supreme Court upheld the core portions of SB 1070, and instead of actually trying to work with Arizona and help us with the illegal immigration and drug smuggling problems that we do have, they decided that it was better to just basically tell us, as Governor Brewer said, to drop dead and not actually help us, revoke our 287G program that we have with ICE and others, and saying that they're not going to actually apprehend illegal immigrants if our state and local law officials actually apprehend them.
Sarah Palin has backed your run for Congress before. What's your take on the governor? I think a Quayle has a unique perspective, perhaps, on the unfair treatment the Palins have endured.
Yeah, I think we were the first ones through it. No, I mean, Governor Palin, it was a great spark in 2008, and she continues to be a strong conservative voice and really, I think, energizes our cause and speaks for our cause. And I think that what my family went through is very similar to what Governor Palin and her family went through, but just she went through it on a much bigger scale just because of the way the media acts and the way the media treats conservative women. And so she took the brunt of it, but you know what? She came out on the other end, I think, looking great, and will be continuing to be a voice for conservative causes for many, many years to come.
Your dad was a huge reason I really jumped into politics. You and I are about the same age. I just started high school when he was elected vice president, and I have been a backer ever since, even ran a group called Dan Quayle Diplomats. We tried to drum up support for a Quayle 96 presidential campaign. How is that for you, having a former VP as your dad? A heck of a resource, I guess, when you have a question?
Yes, I mean, it's great that you have somebody who has been through this. He's been in the House, been in the Senate, he's vice president. Having somebody who you know always has your best interest at heart and that you can trust implicitly to bounce ideas off of, talk to them about the political process and also the legislative process as well. And he gives great advice, but he's also he lets me come to him rather than him come to me. So he's always there, but only if I need him.
Now you're up for re-election. What's the latest on the race, Congressman?
The race is going very well. Arizona, we have this crazy redistricting that happened where we have this independent commission that was hijacked by the Democrats, and they drew a Democrat dream map in Arizona that violated the Arizona Constitution criteria for how the map is supposed to be drawn. So we got a tough race, tough primary, but we're feeling very confident about coming out victorious in August and in November.
Now, you haven't been shy in some of your comments on a myriad of issues, not just your race, the whole Spygate deal, but also some of the things you've said about President Obama. And it seems people have come down hard on you. You think it's your age, your name, or is it just the fact that you're a conservative?
I think it's a little bit of all of it, but I think anytime you have the last name Quayle, you always know that you're going to have the arrows of the media pointed at you. And, I've taken some strong stands. And, I'm not going to sugarcoat how bad this president has been because every day it seems to get worse. Going through, I thought he was going to actually listen to the American people after the 2010 election, but no, he doubled down on liberal policies that have failed us in the past and will fail us in the future. And so, this is the time. I really think that this election is the most pivotal election in our history. And it's going to see the American people make a stark choice between where they want the country to go, whether they want to go down to this social democrat route of Europe, or if they want to return to our Constitution, return to the founding principles that made us strong, where it's about our individual liberties, it's about our families, it's about our churches, our synagogues, our communities, rather than a powerful federal government that's trying to dictate what we do with our everyday lives.
Jumping back briefly to the Obamacare decision from the Supreme Court, we know that this will fire up the conservative base. We know that liberals are pretty happy about it. What do you do for those, not just in the middle politically, but perhaps the apathetic, those who really don't even know maybe how important this decision or lack thereof is? And just in your race as a whole and this country as a whole moving toward November, is that a message you have to get out? And how do you paint that picture if people aren't really paying attention?
Yeah, I think that this decision, the liberals might be really happy about it, but I think that their glee is going to be short-lived because I think that this just lit a fire under the vast majority of the American people because the popularity of Obamacare is dismal. People still don't like it. They're going to continue to not like it. I think that there was a lot of confidence that this was going to get struck down by the Supreme Court, and now that the Supreme Court has actually ruled to uphold it via very contorted logic, I think that this is going to really get that apathy and wipe it away and bring people back out. We're going to have probably, Tea Party rallies. We're going to have people at town halls just irate over this ruling and knowing that the only way we can actually repeal Obamacare is via the legislative process, and that means that we have to get the Senate, we have to keep the House, and we've got to take back the White House.
Folks interested in your race, Congressman Quayle, what's your website so they can check it out, maybe help you out one way or another?
www.quayleforcongress.com.
And the primary date again?
August 28th.
All right, August 28th, folks. Ben Quayle, great congressman here from Arizona. Tough battle, but hopefully we'll get you some help here from the Palinistas.
I really appreciate you guys are the best.
Thank you, sir. Again, Ben Quayle's website, quayleforcongress.com. Before the Obamacare ruling, Sarah Palin had something to say, and after the ruling, she had plenty more to convey to the American people. Earlier in the week, Palin reposted her death panel's commentary from almost 3 years ago. She says over the years, many of the people who had first called the governor a liar finally saw that Obamacare did in fact create a panel of faceless bureaucrats who have the power to make life and death decisions about health care funding. Palin says it's called the Independent Payment Advisory Board, and its purpose all along has been to keep costs down by actually denying care through price controls and typically inefficient bureaucracy. Palin went on to say if the Supreme Court doesn't strike down Obamacare entirely, then Congress must act to repeal IPAB and Obamacare before it is indeed too late. All of Obamacare, Palin says, must go one way or another. Well, as we know now, Obamacare was upheld, and then Governor Palin issued a rallying cry, saying, "Thank you, Supreme Court of the United States. This Obamacare ruling fires up the troops as America's eyes are opened. Thank God." She goes on to say we will not retreat on this. A newly elected legislative branch is key to defending our republic and fundamentally restoring all that is good in America. Palin adds, it's time again for patriotic Americans to rise up to protest this obvious infringement on our economic and personal freedom. November is just around the corner. Today, the Supreme Court issued their ruling on Obamacare. In November, we the people will issue ours. To read the entire post, check out Sarah Palin's Facebook page or her Twitter account. That's at Sarah Palin USA. In a separate tweet, perhaps the most scathing, Palin wrote, Obama lied to the American people. Again, he said it wasn't a tax. Obama lies, freedom dies. Also this past week, Governor Palin looked back at 2008. Palin wrote, on the campaign trail 4 years ago, I talked about Alaska's strategic location on the globe, the potential for future conflicts over Arctic transportation lanes and resources, and the crucial need to keep our eye on Putin's activities. Later, I spoke out against Obama's egregious decision to cut back Alaska's missile defense systems. Palin then posted a link to an article about Russia's Arctic war game exercises earlier this month and said this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone who was paying attention 4 years ago. Maybe now we should ask the president if this is what more flexibility means. To read the article, head over to freebeacon.com. A wild week, and Governor Palin's certainly keeping an eye on it all. Folks, remember you can follow us on Twitter at SarahNetRadio. And we are now on Facebook, too, so please like SarahNet Radio on Facebook. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio. Visit SarahNetRadio.net for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. I want to thank everyone here at SarahNet Radio. Thanks to Congressman Ben Quayle. And thank you for listening today. Please be sure to join us next time for another edition of the Palin Update. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day, and happy Independence Day.